Okay, my daughters love any story from my youth in which I almost died. And this is one of their favorites. I grew up in the heyday of Evel Knievel, who was this motorcycle daredevil who would jump over buses and stuff like that. And so we all were trying to emulate Evel Knievel. And I was the king of our neighborhood because I could jump 31 pine cones, which is about, I don't know, 10 feet. And we were putting jumps all over the place. And the first one would do it and wreck, and then the next person would be like, I want to do it, and they would wreck, and then eventually we'd figure out how to get through it okay. And then one of us, probably me, decided to put a jump at the bottom of this street called Aspen, which was a 45-degree grade from the top to the bottom, and you would get going really, really fast. And we put a long piece of plywood and just one brick to start out with. And at the end of the cul-de-sac, somebody had dumped a big pile, like a 2-foot pile of white sand. So we figured if we wrecked before we got to the curb, we might get thrown onto the sand and it would, cushion the blow a little. So I took the bike up to the top of the hill. My buddies were like, all right, go. And I was like, okay. And I started down the hill and I immediately got too fast to keep up with it on the pedals. So I just laid off the brakes and I just took it all the way down the hill and I hit that jump. And suddenly I remember it all in slow motion. I remember leaving the jump and going, oh, I'm going much further than I thought I would go. And I remember looking down and seeing the curb at the end of the cul-de-sac go past, and then the sand go past. I went over this pile of sand, and now I'm just headed at some trees. There were just woods there, and there were 2 pine trees that were about this far apart, and the handlebars of my bike were only about this wide. So I thought, oh, I might die at this moment. And then I had the thought, how sad for my friends, because they're going to have to go tell my mother that I died. What an uncomfortable situation that was going to be for them. And I just held on, and I somehow made it right between those 2 trees. And my front wheel hit, and I flew over the front of the bicycle, and then the bicycle flew over me, and then I ended up on top of the bicycle again, in the middle, and somehow missed all of these trees that were there. And I'm just lying on a big bed of pine needles and grass on top of the bike, and I'm just thinking, did I break anything? And I start to move my hands. I was fine. There was no broken bones. There wasn't even a scratch on me. I came out of the woods and my friends were just staring because they had been watching me come down the hill, and I just flew past them and into the woods and disappeared, and they didn't know what to think. And I came out and I'm like, I think I'm fine. And they both looked at me, and it was the only thing any of us had ever done in that neighborhood that nobody else wanted to try. It was just like, all right, important safety tip, and we just went and did something else. I took my ex-wife back to Mobile and showed her this spot, and I showed her the 2 trees that I went between, and she was like, how in the world did you fit between those 2 trees? And I said, well, I was a little more narrow then.